Welcome to Itinerary. I'm Seth Kaplan, joining you from, as always, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. We took the show outside today to show you the snow because we are among the half of America that is covered right now in snow. That giant storm. Unusual to have so much of the country at once covered in all this, but you know, hey, we're celebrating it. It's cold, but hey, you know, it'll be too hot soon enough, right? Come July and August. So we'll enjoy this while we have it. Lots of airline cancellations over the past several days. We'll get to that. But first, you know, if you're looking ahead at travel here in this area, our dominant local airport is Harrisburg International. Then we have some of those bigger international airports around us like Baltimore and Philadelphia. We also have another small airport with scheduled airline service, Lancaster Airport. And it has an airline there that people in a lot of places have available to them. That airline is called Breeze. It flies a couple times a week down to Orlando. And the question is whether that is an indication of what's next for the airport. It's either going to be more Breeze flights, but to a new destination, or perhaps flights to Chicago.
This is the arrival and the departure of the Breeze flight coming in from Orlando.
It's our third time.
Chad Brodbeck arriving at Lancaster Airport with little Emily there.
It's really nice to just park right out front.
For free. Tickets are cheap too.
Anywhere from as low as $39, $49, $59.
Mike Junkarth.
We live a couple miles away from here. It's just so convenient to get down to Orlando for a week.
On Breeze Airways, these Airbus 220s are no puddle jumpers.
3 cabins of service on the plane, nicer, nicest.
137 seats. That's in addition to the much smaller Southern Airways flights. Here's one coming in from Washington Dulles. There's one going out to Pittsburgh.
So it's kind of packed in there. You're witnessing the boarding now.
Got your wing.
If you happen to come at this hour on a Thursday morning, you'd be forgiven for thinking this is one busy airport.
Twice a week it's like this. Very busy when the plane transitions.
Most of the rest of the time, it looks more like this. But leaders think it could soon look more like the other way more often.
I was here when they brought Breeze in for the first time. I got to be here for the first flight.
Joanna Billings works for the airport authority. Ed Foster runs it.
I like to see it continue to grow.
That could happen in one of a few ways. The Washington and Pittsburgh flights are federally subsidized, a contract that was supposed to be up last month but got extended through April. Southern wants to continue, but there are two competing bids. SkyWest, branded as United Express, would fly twice a day to Chicago, meaning a one-stop itinerary from Lancaster to hundreds of cities around the U.S. and world. Breeze has another idea.
They would go twice a day to Raleigh, and then you'd make a connection in Raleigh to go to anywhere the Breeze network flies.
Open for Raleigh. My daughter lives down with my granddaughters and son-in-law, so Raleigh would be great. Please, fingers crossed.
A decision by the federal government should come sometime soon. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there. Exciting times for that kind of little airport that could type of deal there, right? Back up the road at Harrisburg International Airport, ahead of the big storms that brought all this, there was a flight that got in late, but then the passengers got off the flight really late. This is American Airlines Flight 1571 from Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. I'll show you the culprit here. This is jet bridge. You can kind of see an employee struggling to operate it. There was a sensor on the jet bridge that wasn't working. The flight landed at about 12:30 in the morning, Saturday morning, ahead of all the bad weather. Passengers didn't go off the plane until 3:05 a.m., nearly 3 hours. American Airlines, in a statement, blamed the jet bridge, also blamed a lack of airport personnel to deal with the problem and apologize to passengers. I should tell you, American Airlines does use its own people on the ground, people who work anyway for subsidiary Piedmont Airlines, who also, our understanding was, the right people weren't there who were trained to bring the stairs out that eventually people deplaned through at the back of the airplane, and that's really what took so long as well. So kind of a confluence of airport equipment issues, nobody at the airport available to fix those issues at that late hour, and then nobody at the airline available to sort of do the alternative thing and bring those stairs. The airline didn't say what caused the initial delay, that shorter sort of hour and a half delay arriving from Dallas-Fort Worth, although the bad weather had already started to roll in there. So it wouldn't be a surprise to know that was weather related. Speaking of which, thousands of cancellations. We are talking of an order that we hadn't seen since early in the pandemic.
The massive winter storm, as seen from space, moving eastward, is causing major disruptions across the country. 10,000 flights were either canceled or delayed Monday. People flying out of LAX were stuck.
But getting from Los Angeles to Boston has been a real challenge. I've had 2 canceled flights, so I've been delayed 24 hours.
Even getting to sunny SoCal has been a hassle.
I'm tired, and my back hurts. But other than that, it could be a lot worse.
KTLA employee Lily Dallow is stranded in Florida after her American Airlines connecting flight to Charlotte was canceled, and her rerouted flights have been delayed, pushing her return to LA until Wednesday night.
I was waiting in line for maybe an hour and a half. You can still kind of see the lines behind me. That's the one to Charlotte, and then the one over there is to Dallas. And both flights have just been delayed nonstop all day.
Our friends at KTLA bringing us that story here on the eve of just one of the worst days in aviation in decades in America. For all the cancellations and delays and other hassles that we can have here from time to time, the industry had really taken pride in its safety record. No big disasters in years and years. It had been since 2009 that you didn't have a commercial plane crash where you had a lot of people die. That changed exactly 1 year ago when that flight operating for American Airlines, landing on its way from Wichita to Reagan National Airport, collided with the Army Black Hawk helicopter. And on the eve of that disaster, more hearings in Washington ahead of a final report about the disaster.
NTSB investigators have been poring over information since the crash happened last year, late in the evening on January 29, 2025. American Airlines Flight 5342 from Wichita, Kansas, was coming in for a landing when it collided with an Army Black Hawk helicopter. There were no survivors from either craft, the crash killing 67 people. So far, investigators say they know the Army helicopter was flying below the minimum altitude where it was supposed to be. Investigators believe the helicopter's altimeter was giving the crew incorrect altitude readings, something that was known to happen. The helicopter was also not broadcasting its location, as it was on a sanctioned training mission in line with Army policy. Since the crash, the FAA has significantly limited helicopter traffic around Washington Reagan Airport. It's also slowed arrival rates for incoming planes to cut down on traffic. The Army has also taken steps to recalibrate the altimeter on those types of helicopters. But questions have remained. Why did the FAA not heed warnings that airspace around DCA was too congested with civilian, military, and law enforcement aircraft? And why was the Army not taking better steps to avoid a collision on its end? NTSB officials say their investigation has revealed systemic failures across multiple agencies and departments. They say their recommendations following the crash are taking a system-wide approach to ensure an accident like this doesn't happen again.
Before this tragedy occurred on January 29, 2025, the U.S. aviation system was experiencing a record level of safety. That is the power of taking a systems approach, which is based not on speculation, but on decades of research, evidence, and our own investigations where the lessons learned turn into lives saved.
And the NTSB will soon release its final report on this investigation, along with any recommended changes. NTSB Chairwoman Jennifer Hamady says she'll continue to push lawmakers and policymakers to implement any of those changes as soon as possible. Reporting in Washington, I'm Trevor Shirley.
Thanks to Trevor. That's something we'll, of course, continue to keep an eye on. When we come back, I want to talk about something that we don't talk about a lot on this show, which is cryptocurrency, kind of alternative finance. I mean, there's a reason we don't. There's less of that in the travel space, candidly, than in a lot of other parts of the finance world. But the question is, will that change eventually? And we have somebody coming up who says yes, and he hopes that his company is going to be a part of that. We'll be right back with more Insider Itinerary. Welcome back to Insider Itinerary from snowy Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, part of half of America that's covered like this right now. We're going to go now to a place where I didn't check the weather, but I'm going to guess it doesn't look like this, to Dubai, United Arab Emirates, where Vijit Kata joins us. And Vijit will explain what you're doing here in a minute, but just to verify, am I correct that there's no snow-covered Dubai right now?
Definitely not. At least not in Dubai, but like in the north part of Dubai, there is some snow. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's surprising to all of us.
Maybe if you go to like an indoor ski range in Dubai, you have those there. You can feel a little bit like this. But yeah, no, a chilly winter for sure in the northern hemisphere in general. But that's not what we're here to talk about. What I want to talk about is your company, and you call it a neobank. And this is, we don't talk a lot about crypto and alternative currencies and that sort of thing on this program. And I think there's a reason for that. I think in the travel space generally, there are a lot of legacy systems in place that make it maybe more difficult for people to adopt these other ways of paying for things than in other industries. I know I'm speaking as somebody who has a wallet full of credit cards that are co-branded with every different kind of airline and hotel, and that if I use those cards, I get all kinds of rewards and all kinds of, maybe travel insurance and things like that. And so for me, I'm kind of like, okay, I'm happy with what I have. But you have a company called Tria, and I think you're going to try to tell me why maybe this can be an alternative in your view, and just what these neobanks in general are.
Let me tell you a bit of a backstory. So we basically built Tria out of the entire frustration with the existing sort of like legacy systems. And like Tria didn't start as a travel product, but like we started as more like global spending and earning on idle assets and making finance both seamless and rewarding. But once we launched our spend feature, like the card feature, what we realized was 25% of our user spending was on hotels, flights, experiences. And we were like, okay, how can we tap into this market wherein we can offer better rewards to the people and give them a very transparent sort of like FX fee structure? Because when you travel, you are not just booking your hotels and flights, you are also spending in that country. And usually the FX rates are 3 to 5% unless there's some special privileges. And that is where we started. Even my bank account, when I was traveling to Japan, my FX rate was 4%. So that's why we thought, why not we partner up with Bookit, bring these rewards wherein like people can get not just like they can use the Tria card to book their travel, but they can also receive cashbacks that are up to 10%. And this is all something no one tells you about. And these cashbacks are not reward points. These are spendable US dollars directly in your account that you can use anywhere. These are not points. And that's
I just want to clarify for anybody, just we're using shorthand here, but FX for anybody who doesn't know, foreign exchange. So we're talking about when you go to another country and you're spending that country's currency. So I do have to ask you, because the cards that I have in general, the travel focused cards that I have 0% exchange fees. Any card that I would use overseas would have that. These are cards that generally they carry annual fees, but then that's one of the benefits you get, one of the privileges you get. So does your product do better than that, or does it just kind of match that in terms of the, and I realize one thing is the fee and another thing is the conversion rate.
Yeah, of course, we definitely do better than that, because again, like there are multiple aspects to it. What you would not see as fees would be like, what is the conversion, what is the FX rates that are being used. So that is something, while you see 0% fees, the FX rate might already have the markup. So first is that. The second is the cashback amount itself. You would get reward points on your, let's say, JP Morgan Chase or like whatever account that you are using. But those reward points, how it translates into cashback, it's always like there is a very complex system. With Tria, you get direct, like minimum, like if depending on the membership tier, you get anywhere between 5% to 10% cashback on every spend that you are doing. And that is basically
Yeah, no, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I was gonna ask you, and this is you're spending. It's a Visa card or something like that that you're using here.
it is a Visa card.
Okay. Now, how
So
are you able to do that? And I'm asking only because and
yeah,
this is new to me, but just showing healthy skepticism, let's say, because I know that the fees that merchants pay, basically any kind of companies pay, those basically buy the rewards, right? And so, when you get 1%, 2% back from some other company, it's because when I say some other company, I mean some other credit card, let's say, it's because the merchants, whether they're airlines, hotels, or supermarkets, or, they're paying, let's say, 3%. And so it works out for everybody. So the company shares a little bit, the credit card company and the bank share a little bit with the consumer, and they still make some money for themselves. So how are you able to afford it? Maybe you could tell us more about where that 10%, because I'm sure it's not 10% on everything, but you said minimum 5%. Like just kind of give me a little bit more of a real life example of how that would work, and then I guess I just have to ask you how you can afford to do that and still make money.
no, I'm like it's obviously like I'm like these are more internal details, but like obviously when you are traveling or when you are booking a flight or a hotel, I would say more on the hotels, experiences, cruises, there is usually a margin, a big margin that these companies usually charge, and that what we are doing as a company is we are giving back that margin to the users directly, and that is how we are, and in partnership with Bookit we are able to do that, to make sure that users feel whole, because our aim with travel is not to profit. Our aim is to basically make sure that we bring more and more value to the users.
Okay, and that makes sense. And what you said reconciles with what I know about the industry, which is that the hotels, sort of those the commissions or whatever you want to call them, but basically the transaction fees are a lot higher than they are with the airlines. And so it makes sense if you're talking about hotels and cruises that there would be kind of a lot more wiggle room there to be able to give something back to the consumer than there would be, like, let's say with an airline booking.
Yeah.
So how then do you make money? I'm sure there's some, so you're using this from what I gather to attract people, and then there's got to be some other way that you're where you do
Yeah.
have some margin, even if it's not from this part of the business.
No, definitely. Like, there's obviously the part of the entire membership within Tria. So that is one where while we are giving value to the people, we are also generating revenue. But then there are other aspects to Tria, which I would say is something that we have personally solved. Again, it's very crypto native, so I won't be able to explain you very, very fluently. But it is trading. So like you can trade futures on Tria, you can do the prediction markets on Tria. So you can have a wide variety of sort of like features that you can use within Tria, not just the travel, but you have spend, you have travel, you have trade, you have savings account, earnings account, you have sort of like different things that we are bringing to the user. So if I were to tell you like how to visualize Tria, it's basically like we are bringing mixing financial with the lifestyle is what we are doing, and then there are different ways that we make revenue out of it.
And I think our viewers on a show like this probably run the spectrum from people who know all about crypto and maybe and just all kinds of alternative assets and trade actively, to some people who know almost nothing about it, to somebody like me in the middle who I understand more or less what it is, but I've never dealt in it. And so I guess maybe this is a way for you to take some of those people in the middle and move them more toward the end of the spectrum of people who are doing more with it.
No, definitely. Like, I mean, like, if I were to explain in very short term, so we started as an infrastructure company. And when we say infrastructure, it's basically we were solving like how to connect. There is like 1,000+ blockchains, how to connect all blockchains and have like a unified orchestration layer of money, which can move the money between different blockchains so that people don't have to worry about the complexities of the blockchain. So that's how we started. And on top of that, we basically built our consumer app, which is what you or most of the people know as Tria. And that consumer app basically uses the infrastructure that we have to basically orchestrate the money across different chains, across different sort of like complexities of blockchain. And that basically makes it extremely seamless for people to use blockchain without them ever knowing that they are on blockchain, but at the same time interacting in the real world like they have been interacting in general. So like we don't change the ways of working, we just bring a new technology and give better sort of like experience to the users.
Okay. Well, this is fascinating. I'm gonna check it out some more. And it sounds. I mean, look, I know this isn't your aim, but it sounds like just like a lot of things in the world where, uh, in the goal, in the end, the goal is for the companies to make money. For some consumers, they can win just by kind of playing the game. I mean, it sounds like this is something where you're kind of saying, and it's not your words, but it's sort of a loss leader. And even if all I do is use the card for travel, then it could actually work out very well for me. I mean, that's your pitch. How do I find out more if I want to learn more?
You are absolutely right. There are sets of people who are just very focused on one product, not rather than all the other products, and like we might be losing on that front. But eventually, like what we have seen is the habits of users, and they are not just spending, but they are converting into sort of like different features that we have within Tria. So that's how we see that the life cycle of a user is not just one product. Eventually, it just multiplies.
And of course, we don't endorse products on here, but if somebody wants to learn more, your website is what? If they want to go learn more about this and make their own decision?
It's tria.so, www.tria.so.
.so.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go check it out because
Yeah.
I know I definitely want to learn more. It's something that I candidly don't know a lot about, and like I said, I answered this with the healthy dose of skepticism, but that all makes, because when I just see, okay, 10% back on travel, I know that if that was all, that math doesn't make sense. But now that I understand what parts of travel and then how you use this to leverage the rest of your business, that does make more sense to me. So Vijay, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Definitely, sir.
And thank you for staying with us. When we come back, the very last open seating flight on Southwest Airlines ever, when Inside Our Itinerary continues. And finally, on Inside Our Itinerary, the very final Southwest Airlines flight with open seating. We've been talking about this for a while. Southwest famously, historically, never assigned seats. It was all open seating. Some people loved it, some people didn't. But whatever we all think of it, we knew as of about a year ago that it was going to stop. And now it actually is, well, it has stopped. And the very last flight that featured open seating came from a place where I'm pretty sure it wasn't snow like this on the ground. It was Honolulu, Hawaii, flying back to Los Angeles, LAX International Airport. And I mean, because it started in Hawaii, look at this celebration. I mean, they did it up big for that final open seating flight there out of Hawaii. Historic. Southwest rolled out a retro looking plane. It's actually not an old plane, painted in the old livery that a lot of people remember from back in the 80s and 90s when Southwest was really first growing around the country, and when some of us experienced that open seating for the first time. I remember my first Southwest flight. In my case, it was out of Baltimore Washington International Airport on the way to Cleveland. Paid $19 in April 1994, $19 each way. And Southwest says now is the time for a change.
Sometimes when you think about flying Southwest, the boarding process can be confusing. We do have a lot of customers that enjoy it. We also have customers that are interested in us assigning seats. And so we decided to make the change, and it's been just over a year in the making, and we're thrilled to have it finally out for the public to try.
I like both. There are certain times I'll fly American because I like to know where I'm going to sit, and there are certain times I'll like to fly Southwest because there's that freedom. I guess you feel a little bit more free, just like showing up, and you check in early enough and you get your choice. I have to admit, now that I know it's going away, I like it more. So, like other things in life, right?
And let's admit it, we're all kind of that way to one degree or another, aren't we? So, like it or not, open seating is over. Assigned seating is here. One of many changes at Southwest, along with charging for bags and and distributing its inventory, its flights more widely. You can find its flights now places you didn't used to find them. You used to have to go straight to the airline's website. Now you see them all kinds of changes at Southwest that candidly some people like and some people don't. As we wrap up another edition of Insider Itinerary, thanks for joining us as always. Until next week, I'm Seth Kaplan reminding you this week especially with all the weather to travel safely.